The town of Bitter Creek baked under the summer sun, its dusty streets shimmering in the heat. Horses stamped restlessly at the hitching posts, wagons creaked past, and the smell of sweat and hay filled the air. Into this scene rode Luke McGraw, a solitary cowboy with dust on his hat and weariness in his eyes. He had come down from his ranch in the hills to buy supplies, flour, beans, maybe a little coffee to last the month. Luke wasn't a man who lingered in towns. Since his wife had died 5 winters ago, he preferred the company of open skies and cattle more than people. He lived simply, speaking little, riding alone. Yet something about this trip would turn the course of his life in ways he could not imagine. As he dismounted and tied his horse outside the general store, his eyes caught movement across the street. A young woman in a tattered wedding dress sat on the edge of the boardwalk, her face pale, her bonnet askew. Her hands trembled as she reached toward the bakery door, her voice hoarse as she whispered, "Please, sir, a little bread." The baker shooed her away roughly, muttering, "Ain't running a charity." The crowd passing by barely spared her a glance. Some shook their heads, others smirked. To them, she was just another soul broken by the West's harshness. But Luke paused, his hand tightening on the reins. Something in the desperation of her voice stirred memories he had tried to bury. The sound of hunger, the sting of grief, the sight of someone with nothing left. He crossed the street in a few long strides. The woman looked up startled. Her eyes were green, though dulled by exhaustion, and her cheeks were hollow. Still, there was dignity in the way she tried to hide her trembling hands in her lap. "You hungry, ma'am?" Luke asked quietly. She nodded, unable to form words. Luke turned without another word, stepped into the bakery, and laid down coins for a loaf of fresh bread. When he returned, he broke it in half, handing it to her. She gasped softly, clutching it to her chest before tearing off a piece and eating with shaking hands. "Thank you," she whispered, crumbs catching in her lashes as tears filled her eyes. Luke tipped his hat slightly. "Name's Luke McGraw. You got a name?" "Anna," she said softly. "Anna Rose." Her story came haltingly as they sat together on the boardwalk. She had been brought west as a mail-order bride, promised to a farmer who needed a wife. But when she arrived, she discovered he had died in an accident weeks before. With no family, no money, and no way back east, she had wandered from place to place until hunger drove her to begging. Luke listened, his jaw tight. He had seen plenty of cruelty in the West, but something about a woman left stranded in a wedding dress twisted at his heart. He thought of his own loneliness, of the empty house waiting for him, of the silence that pressed heavy every night. "You can't stay out here," he said firmly. "This town'll eat you alive." Anna lowered her gaze, shame coloring her cheeks. "Where should I go?" The words hung between them. Luke hadn't meant to speak further, but the answer rose before he could stop it. "Come with me. My ranch is a ways out, but I've got food, a roof. Ain't much, but it's better than the street." Anna's eyes widened in shock. "Why would you—" Luke shifted, uncomfortable under her gaze. "Because no one deserves to starve. And because maybe I don't care to eat alone anymore." That night, Anna rode with him to the ranch, the wedding dress tucked beneath a borrowed shawl. The journey was quiet but not heavy. There was a strange comfort in the rhythm of the horses' hooves, the vast prairie stretching under the stars. Luke's ranch was modest, a sturdy log house, a barn and acres of land rolling toward the horizon. To Anna it was salvation. She helped him carry in the supplies, and when he showed her the spare room, she nearly collapsed with gratitude. Days turned into weeks. Anna worked tirelessly, cooking meals, patching clothes, sweeping dust from corners long neglected. She planted flowers by the porch, their blooms a splash of color against the dry earth. For the first time in years, Luke returned from long days of cattle work to find a warm meal waiting, a lamp glowing, and soft laughter echoing through the house. Yet the townsfolk whispered. When Luke came for supplies with Anna at his side, some called her the beggar bride. Others muttered that she had tricked him, that she was barren, useless. Luke ignored them, but Anna heard every cruel word. One evening, she confessed through tears, "You don't owe me anything. You could send me away and no one would blame you." Luke took her trembling hands in his calloused ones. "Anna, listen to me. You were never a burden. You brought life back to this house. If folks can't see that, to hell with them." The turning point came during a harsh storm. Lightning split the sky and the barn caught fire. Luke rushed out, fighting the flames with water buckets, while Anna darted fearlessly into the smoke to drive the panicked horses to safety. Together they battled through wind and rain, saving most of the stock, though the barn half burned. When the storm passed, Luke stood in the mud, soaked and exhausted, staring at Anna. Her hair clung to her face, soot streaked her cheeks, but her eyes burned bright with determination. In that moment, he realized she was more than a guest, more than someone he'd rescued. She was his partner. Weeks later, the church bell rang in Bitter Creek as Luke and Anna stood before the preacher. She wore a simple blue dress, not the tattered white gown she had once begged in, and he wore his best shirt and hat. The townsfolk gathered, some curious, some whispering still. But when they saw the way Luke looked at her, as if she were the only soul in the world, the whispers faded. After the vows, Luke leaned close and said softly, "I came for flour and beans that day. Instead, I found the one thing I'd been missing all these years." Anna smiled, her tears shining. "And I found a home." From that day forward, the lonely cowboy was no longer alone. His ranch echoed with laughter. His table was never empty, and the wide, harsh land of the West became a place of hope instead of sorrow. And those who once called her the beggar bride would, in time, call her something else entirely: the heart of the McGraw Ranch.